Hey, good morning. We're talking about how worthless and how ignorant you protesters are from the Can't Get a Clue crew because you're protesting in a spot that makes absolutely no sense and has absolutely no chance of changing anything you're protesting because the people that are seeing you protest have no power to change it. See, I understand that you don't consider ICE law enforcement. And that's okay. That's a whole separate mental delusion debate that we can have with you. But here are the facts. ICE is federal law enforcement. Here's one of the great things that the men and women of ICE do. Primarily, I don't remember the numbers, but they're extremely high on human trafficking. You know, the men and women and children that come up missing and just disappear. Usually, human trafficking is responsible for that. This is what these men and women pride themselves on going after human traffickers, which happen to follow the same routes as people from other countries that know they will not be admitted legally into the United States. They follow the same criminal paths. Who would have thought? Who in their right mind would have thought of that? Oh, maybe someone with, I don't know, an ounce of common sense. You know, because see, let's take Good, which is just ironic that that's her fucking last name because everything about that day was bad. Okay, everything about that day. Her choice to listen to someone, to drive hours away from her one child that she had left out of three, the other two were taken from her, okay, because she was in a turmoil state because her husband, she's a widower, and this slime ball reached in and an opportunistic time, okay, and then drove all the way over there to do what? To enforce her will because they believe ICE are Nazis or whatever the rhetoric today is on a public street, nowhere near in a residential area. Okay, there's no senators that lived in that neighborhood. There's no House of Representative individuals living in that neighborhood. No city council. No, they were just normal, everyday residents that had 9 to 5. So, what were you protesting? Oh, yeah. Now we're coming back to the facts. Okay, you were being selfish, showing your ass, interfering with a lawful law enforcement operation, aggressively drove a 2,500 to 3,500 pound weapon towards an armed officer after a barrage of commands were directed towards this individual. And the person she drove towards defended himself and killed her in the process. All unfortunate acts. Now that individual has to live with taking a person's life because that's horrible. That's something that will haunt him because it was something I'm sure he did not want to do. But any human put in that situation where you believe it's them or you, I assure you, 9 people out of 10 will tell you it's going to be them, not me. Okay? The instinct, your survival instinct kicks in. Okay? Now, well, I can already hear you. We have the right to protest. Ah, yes, you do. But I've been hearing a lot of references to the 60s movements of protests and civil rights and all that. Okay, you need to think about what they were doing. Okay, young country, bunch of mistakes. Okay, didn't a lot of people holding on to the past, not yada yada yada. Okay, there was a real cause. Okay, this is what most of the people I have spoken with, like 8 out of 10, think of your protest. You can't get a clue crew. Okay. They think you're protesting for billionaires because you're funded by individuals like the Soros Foundation and a bunch of them. It's all come out. We all know it. Okay. So you're getting a paycheck. That's cool. Great. You need to look at what these companies are doing. Look into Soros Industries and see how much money he's making off of this shit. This is not, he doesn't follow your path. He doesn't believe in your cause. He believes in making fucking money. And his corporations make a ton of money off of you idiots. If you would take I'm sure because it's a paid position, you get breaks. Take your break and look into some of these people. And even if you don't believe that they're the ones financing, look into them anyway. Okay. And see how they make their money. Because remember, when it comes to corruption, people, all you have to do is follow the money and you'll find the bad actors. You will. Because this all comes down to money. Money. Soros Foundation has been leading the way to put in a communist type socialist regime. Okay. You can't get a clue, crew, motherfuckers. Always want to bring up the Nazi Party. Let's analyze who thrived in the Nazi Party, which everyone cannot debate that it was set up as a socialist system, correct? So, if you were a Jewish individual in Germany, how did you survive Nazi Germany? Let's see. They made a movie about it called Schindler's List. It shows you how. Off of people that were theirs memory of it. If you were Jewish and you aligned yourself with Nazi and belittled yourself and disrespected yourself, you would achieve a little bit of your money and everything that you held value at that time. Look at that. Now let's look at that. See, in the real world, we call that prostitution. Okay. Just because you're not selling sex does not mean you're not selling yourself, people. You are selling something far more valuable. You as a person. Okay? And that's what the Nazis did to a lot of Jews during that time. And if you think about it, and if you go look at Schindler's List and you watch how some of the actors that portrayed Jewish individuals in that movie, you'll see they did a bunch of humbling themselves and putting up with a lot of shit. Now think of where we are now. Think of some of these idiot politicians that are standing on their little soapbox, quite like Hitler, talking about the injustices of the other side and how we must unite and all this other fancy little psychological speak, all to get you to follow their rhetoric so that they can go back to the kings and say, look, I was a good boy or I was a good girl, and look at how much of a following I got. Does it seem familiar, people? Does it? Boy, it sure does. Because the Can't Get a Clue crew is following, which there's no debate that it's mostly liberal women that it's a bunch of you. And you're pro-Islamic terrorist, pro-Muslim. that if you look into Sharia law, you aren't a person no more. You are a man's property. Yes, liberal women, you keep pushing this Sharia law, you liberal woman turns into a man's property. Okay? Because that's the only time you trade stuff is for property, correct? You know, there's a video going around the internet where a father is trading his very young daughter, don't know the age, she's definitely under 10, and trades her to this 70-some-year-old man for, I think it was some money or some livestock. Good job, liberal women. That's what you want in this country? Wow. That's what you're protesting with, you know? And now you got to double down. Now you're protesting against America and Israel's destruction of the supreme leader. Sounds like a king to me. Wake up, people. Wake up.